AFCON picked this up from the FIFA rulebook because, to the best of my knowledge, I couldn't find any. I looked around and I just couldn't find any rulebook in the past. The only countries that I believe that might have some of the rule books might be maybe Morocco, Nigeria, Guinea, Egypt, the first group of people that started playing the AFCON. But according to what happened on that day, giving Nigeria the victory, that rule was pulled from FIFA. The AFCON used the FIFA rule. While I couldn't find a public information birth certificate for the 2-0 forfeit score, it became a globally recognized FIFA disciplinary standard for walkover or abandonment of any game. And this rule was used in the early 1970s. This was when the default of 2-0 or forfeit or walk-off became a thing in football. So pre-1995, the tradition was 2 points. And then post 1995, the tradition became 3 points, right? The transition happened in 1995 to 2010 after FIFA adopted the 3 points for a win system. And then they adopted it into a 3-0 default judgment. And you can find this in the 2019 codification of FIFA, where they have their disciplinary action. So going back to history, right? So we stopped at 1978, third place competition between Nigeria and Tunisia. And this brings us back to the World Cup, 1982, during the group stage match between France and Kuwait. And 88th minute, there was a questionable call that led to the walk-off of the Kuwaiti players. The questionable call was reviewed and revised. There was no VAR at that, right? So this is 1982. And as a result, the Kuwaiti players were convinced to come back into the field and complete the match, and disciplinary actions were taken. One of the disciplinary actions was the ref. The ref was suspended by FIFA for his actions during the game. In 1990, during the World Cup qualification, Brazil and Chile were met with the same dilemma. The Chilean goalkeeper faked an injury, allegedly, according to the documents, from a firework to try to get the match to be abandoned while Brazil was leading on a 1-0 game. After an investigation, FIFA awarded Brazil a 2-0 victory and banned Chile from the 1994 World Cup. I know we're going through history. I'm trying to show a pattern that walking off, it's not new. And there's a distinction between walking off the field, returning back to the field to play the game. And there's a distinction between walking off the field and permanently not coming back to play the game. And there's also a distinction between abandoning of the game. That's the reason why I'm going through history, because this is not a one-off thing. What Senegal did is not an anomaly. Matter of fact, when FIFA was young during the World Cup and they were trying to establish themselves, this was common. In the African Cup of Nations, this has been a common phenomenon. When players get seriously frustrated with the callings of a ref, they start to ask themselves, what's the point? And that's what signifies a protest. When beyond the shadow of a doubt, people can see that the game is being rigged. And when we mean the game is being rigged, either by dimming the lights so that the players can see, chanting racial slur to throw them off their game, even worse, snatching the towel from a goalkeeper so he can wipe his hand when the rain is falling, so the ball will slip off his hand and get into the goalpost. There are some things that during a competition should not be allowed, should be frowned upon, and members, fans, referees should get disciplinary actions for such. In the second leg of the 91 European Cup quarterfinals between AC Milan and Marseille, 2 minutes towards the end of the game, a flashlight went off. So the light of the stadium went off. This resulted in AC Milan walking off the field. Rightly so. They could say they couldn't see clearly or they were scared of getting injured. Once the lights were restored, the Milan players did not return to finish the game, citing safety issues. Marseille won the game 1-0. Now remember, this was 2 minutes to the end of the game. So all things being equal, cerebus paribus, Marseille was always gonna win. Maybe we've seen miracle goals with Rodrigo, But UEFA ended awarding Marseille a 3-0 victory in the second leg, citing a forfeit. UEFA banned AC Milan from the Europa competition the following season because of their actions to not complete the last 2 minutes of the game. So now we can trace how the 2-0 forfeit became a 3-0. So as I said earlier on, pre-1995, if for some reason a team is granted a forfeit, it's a 2-0 victory for the team that showed up. And post 1995, it became a 3-0 default judgment. And by 2019, it entered the FIFA disciplinary code officially, and a 3-0 default was for any reason of abandonment, a non-show of a game. Why the score changed? The score changed, again, I'll remind, as I said earlier on, the score change was because of the 3-point rules for a win. So if you're playing the group stages in a FIFA World Cup or any tournament, any team that wins get a 3-point, and so the 3-point default rule, according to the codification of the rule book to make it simpler. In the 07 round of 16 first leg between Manchester United and Leeds, in the 83rd minute, there was a questionable free kick, leading Leeds player to briefly walk off. Again, another group of people playing against Manchester United. They walked off the field and then they returned to the game. UEFA rejected Leeds' former protest regarding Giggs' goal, and United won the game. So the basic gist was there was no default judgment. So the Leeds team walked off the field, they came back into the game, and they played the game. In the 2018 World Cup qualification, Nigeria versus Algeria, the game ended on a 1-1 draw. And after FIFA looked at the rule books, FIFA declared Algeria a 3-0 victory. And the reason why they declared Algeria a 3-0 victory on default was Nigeria had a player on the team that had 2 yellow cards. So 2 yellow cards represent 1 red card and means the player misses the next game. So as a result, according to the rule books, Nigeria played someone on the field that was not supposed to be played. And so the Nigerian Football Federation was fined 6,000 Swiss francs for this, and the game went on, right? The tournament went on. A more interesting one that happened in recent time is the 2024 Turkish Super Cup finals. After playing 1 minute and conceding a goal, the other team walked off the field, and Galatasaray were awarded the winner and were crowned the Turkish Super Cup champions. So what happened in the 2025 AFCON finals between Morocco and Senegal? So the match began. Be it as is made, most fans said the game was actually rigged against Senegal. And be it as it may, most fans said that the man of the match was Sadio Mané, followed by the second goalkeeper of Senegal, who stood under the rain holding the towel while the Moroccan ball boys and team members attacked him. And when I use the word attack, I mean attacked. They threw him on the ground and they kept wrestling to get the towel away. Again, if working with FIFA or AFCON rulebook, that should be illegal. There is no rule that a goalkeeper cannot clean his gloves when it's soaked with rain. Matter of fact, we can go through history. This has been a thing. A goalkeeper is awarded the space next to his goalpost. He keeps his water bottle, he keeps his towel, and he keeps his headband and whatever can make him comfortable while he plays, as long as what he has down there does not interrupt the match. So as the game proceeded, Senegal scored a goal, and the ref ruled against the goal and called it off. The Senegal players protested against that, but they kept playing. Some few minutes later, a penalty was awarded against the Senegalese players. And this penalty being awarded was what resulted in players leaving the pitch for 17 minutes. And I say 17 minutes to draw a contraction because if we remember the finals, the group stage finals between Guinea and Morocco, Morocco walked out for 15 minutes. In some newspaper articles I have read and I watched the match, I calculated the Moroccans walkout at 15 minutes. Matter of fact, I looked at it and I calculated it at 7 minutes. And why did I give it 7 minutes? If we gave it 17 minutes, you started counting the time when the first player walked out the field. But when you start counting when the last player, before Mané walked out the field, it was 7 minutes. And if you count the time when Mané walked out the field, it will be less than 3 minutes. So in contrast, using the rule books according to AFCON or FIFA and the definition of a walkout, which is when a team walks out the field, Senegal as a whole really didn't commit too much crime, if we're going to regard this as a crime. Because what's good for the goose should be good for the ganja. And again, Senegal walked out of a final. This is not a new thing. History, videos, articles can show this. So the Senegalese player, they returned back into the field. And luckily for their goalkeeper, he was able to stop the goal. And while he was able to stop the goal, the game went into an extra time. And the extra time resulted in Senegal scoring the winning goal and ending the finals at a 1-0. So on the pitch, Senegal had won the final 1-0. They lifted the cup. We all saw the video. We all saw their cheers. We all saw their smiles. But Moroccan team appealed this. And 63 days later, the Moroccan national football team were awarded the victors. This is the first time in the AFCON history where a team wins the game on the pitch and is stripped of its title off the pitch. So the Senegalese, as of today, as I'm making this video, are not the AFCON champions. According to the rules, the AFCON committee says Morocco are the new champion, giving them a 3-0 default rules. Again, we are going back to FIFA, right? So the reason why I expanded about the 2-0 default judgment, the 3-0 default judgment, it brings us back here. Because according to the AFCON rulebook, they hadn't talked about this. And in some of their laws, they would say if we don't have a rule about a certain incident, then if the rule exists in the FIFA rule book, that will be the rule. So this is how Morocco stands as the champion. Review of what has been happening in terms of walk-off in history. We have 1920 Czechoslovakia versus Belgium. We have 1976 Morocco, a 15 minutes walk-off over a red card. They came back, the ref honors the play and gives them, they become the champion. 1978 Nigeria, Tunisia. The Tunisian players, they walk off and they do not return. A default judgment is given. Nigeria is given the bronze medal, a third place. And this brings us to Senegal, Morocco, when the Senegalese players, they walk off the field and then they come back. But this time they are the victor. And after they have become the victor, they are stripped of their title, according to a rule book, an arbitrary rule book that is following a double standard.